People who saw something next to the road and stopped to take a look. What's your story? Near my house by an intersection, guy dressed in leather and a huge trench coat was stabbing a skateboard with a weird sword. Around 10 on a Sunday night. Nobody else around. I found some goods, but they were too tough to cut into with my pocket knife and smelled like terrible body odor, so I left them. Another time while out biking I saw a ski in the gutter. A few blocks farther, I found the other ski, so I picked it up and went back for the first one. On the way home with a pair of skis across the handlebars, I found another pair of skis in the gutter, so I took those home too. My mom was absolutely baffled when I rolled up to the house. Your enthusiasm over the goods made my night. My brother was driving 100 down the highway at night and swore he saw a guy right next to the road. He turned around the first chance he could and sent to look to see if he was okay. This was in the middle of nowhere and he had his wife and 3 kids in the back. Wife saw it too. They really only got back to the spot about 5-10 minutes later and couldn't see anything. They called the police of the nearby town and met the officer there. My brother and the officer looked around a bit more while his wife stayed in the car. Eventually they gave up and drove home. The officer said he would look a bit more. The next day he got a call from the officer. He found the guy in diabetic shock some ways from the road. Got him to the hospital and he lived. He had left a bar and started walking down the highway. He was found about 4 kilometers from the bar outside a tiny town. Brother definitely saved the guy's life. Whoa. It was a box with a paper taped to the top that said RIP someone's poor dead kitty. I was in a college town, so I figured it might be a prank. Like someone was doing a Scrodinger's cat bit. Nope. There sure was someone's dead cat in that box. It was a Scrodinger's cat bit. The cat was both dead and alive until you opened the box. Then it was dead. We were driving and my boyfriend stopped the car all of a sudden and put his hazard lights on. The car behind us thought we were stopping for no reason. He got angry and cut in front of us and ran over the old man who was laying in middle of the road. The old man fell and was not able to get up, and now his leg was crushed. And when the driver realized what he had done, he drove away at the speed of light. I didn't stop, but my girlfriend at the time, and I saw a mountain lion, cougar puma, standing on the side of the road in Connecticut around 2008. There haven't been mountain lions here for 100 years. No one believed us. Until a few years later, when one got run over on the highway. That's nuts. I didn't know there are mountain lions in Connecticut. Fairfield County has its share of cougars though. In a muddy ditch, me and my sisters got out to see a filthy dog drowning in this mud pit. My sister jumped in, dragged the dog out, and we took it in. The owner of the dog had apparently gotten sick of her and let her out in the middle of the busy road. He didn't want her anymore, so he gave her to us. She was a mixed pit bull terrier we named Flower, who lived with us for 13 years. I miss my Flower now. She was one of the kindest dogs I ever had. Hold up. Gotta go love on my pup. I was maybe 15 and was in the passenger seat while my mom was driving us home from the store or something. I saw a mass of black and white in the road. I couldn't tell what it actually was by looking at it, but somehow I just knew it was actually 2 kittens. I frantically told my mom to pull over, and we got out to get them. One came right up to us, and the other's eyes were so gunky he couldn't see. The girl who ran up to us was so happy and refused to leave her brother even on the road. So we took them both and nursed them back to health basically. Couldn't keep them, but we made sure they went to a good home. I still miss them sometimes even nearly a decade later. You and your mother did the right thing. I'm glad she listened to you. I saw something in the middle of the road once after work one night. I stopped my car, got out, and called out to it. It ran straight to me and climbed on my shoulders. That's the story of how I met my cat 4 years ago. I saw what appeared to be a diamond necklace fly by in a glittery blur on the freeway shoulder. Thinking some girlfriend angrily tossed it out of a speeding car to make her cheating boyfriend upset, I turned around at the next off-ramp and went back to stop and collect my payday. It was just one of those stupid but fake diamond license plate frames. I have an active imagination and an empty wallet. Hahaha. One night I was driving home just after receiving my first aid certificate. I glimpsed what looked like someone hunched over by the side of road, struggling. I immediately pulled over and a little part of me was like, this is amazing. I can do CPR. I'll be a hero. Don't worry man, I got you. I have a first aid certificate. Anyway, it was a garbage bag. Were you able to help it? I work for a garage. A customer picked up his trailer which was in for repairs and drove away. 15 minutes later, he was back and he was angry. The trailer plug was missing and he believed it was our fault. We tried to explain it was on there when he left, but he wasn't buying it. Wanted to speak to the foreman, etc. My co-worker was out on a test drive and spotted a small black object on the side of the road. It wasn't bigger than a pack of cigarettes, but it caught his eye. He stopped and picked it up and continued back to the workshop. Rolls in to see this guy demanding that we source a new trailer plug for him, when my mate comes up to me and says, "Hey, I found this trailer plug on the side of the road." We asked the customer if he'd driven that way. He had. Fitted it to the trailer and sent him on his way. I saw something in my backseat once. I was on my way home from work late. It was dark and I was on a county road with no street lights. As soon as I saw whatever it was, I stopped the car, jumped out and quickly ran over to the other side of the road, leaving the driver door open. I spent an extremely petrifying half hour just staring at my car, waiting for what I saw to surface. It was pitch dark except for my dome light in the car. There was a light hum of wind and the ding of my keys in the ignition, and my heart rate never decreased. I was trembling for a while. Eventually, I slowly approached the car, opened the back door, and said, "Get the frick out," and just then I realized that I heard a car door slam shut when I first ran to the other side of the road. Another intense wave of panic nearly crippled me. I hopped back in the car and took all the way the frick off. Blacked that memory out for a while. I was driving from work through this street that had a lot of bushes on both sides of the road and empty lots. I don't know what made me notice, but I could see the silhouette of a person on the ground, so against my better judgment I pulled over to check it out. When I got to the spot I saw this guy in pain and a bike off in the distance on the ground. I asked him what happened and he said that his right foot got stuck on the front wheel, which caused the bike to flip over and send him flying. Unfortunately his foot was a bloody mess and his toenail was hanging by a little thread, with the rest of the foot covered in wounds. I brought back his bike and cell phone. While I asked him if I should call 911, he said no, since he was a foreign college student and he didn't have insurance or money to pay for it. So I did the best thing and carried him to my car, put his bike on the back, which barely fits since I have a small sports car, and took him home. There I left him with his host family and called it a day. I don't remember his name or didn't exchange contact info with him, but I hope he was okay after that. Nice person. On a road trip through the New Mexican desert when my GF and I see a guy walking in the middle of nowhere. He had a sign saying he was walking across America. Stopped to say hi and he was a cool dude living his dream. I wish him the best. I was driving by an abandoned strip club KN my way to get a replacement hydraulic hose. I glance over and I notice a box just sitting in the parking lot. Before I turn back to face the road, a head pops out of a hole in the side. Turns out someone put their puppy inside a box, taped it up and left it in the empty lot. So of course I pull in, grab the little guy and being him home. Saw a flashing light in the ditch in the dark. Found a flipped motorcycle and a motorcyclist with a broken arm and dislocated shoulder. We thought it was a scared baby bunny. Turns out it was a litter of baby bobcats. After we stopped to investigate, we took butt out of there like a hot dang. Oh crap. That was almost really bad. Thank God you don't have idiot friends who are like, hey let's keep one, and then you guys get chased down by a raptor. I was riding my bike as a kid and there was a large trash bag on the side of the road in a residential type area. Got close but it looked lumpy in a weird way. I jokingly told my friends I was with, "That's a body," we left it alone. Nighttime news confirmed it was, in fact, a dead body. There were a few weird murders in my neighborhood when I was a kid. It was pouring and 3 cars in front of me each slowed down. When I got to the spot they had slowed down for there was a woman. I thought, what the frick, Each of those drivers slowed down to look at a woman walking the pouring rain. What buttholes, so I pulled over and offered her a ride, and she accepted. It turned out we worked in the same town and lived in the same city. I gave her rides to work for about 6 months. It occurred to me much later the other cars may have been slowing down to avoid splashing her due to the huge puddles. Stopped to look at a laptop bag in a parking lot once cause it was oddly out of place, and who know, maybe there was actually a computer in there. There was a giant human turd in it. Somebody logged on. I was taking my wife home when we had first started dating. We were driving along the back roads on the way there. We were coming up on a 90-degree when suddenly there were a pair of eyes in the middle of the road ahead. I stopped the car. We both got out, and at least 25 little bunnies scampered across the road. It was pretty magical. That was the night I had first told her I loved her. 6 years later, we still drive past that spot in hopes of seeing the bunnies again. My mom saw something on the side of the road. It turned out to be a box full of Disney VHS tapes. 90s was basically my childhood in a box that she found. About 5 weeks ago, I was driving to my parents' house to deliver homemade oatmeal raisin cookies. A face appeared in the weeds, and I stopped and grabbed the skinny, dehydrated Rottweiler mix puppy, took him home and insisted we were not keeping him. My wife, who does not like big dogs, backed me up. This was a Saturday. On Monday, we took him to Outvet and had him checked out. No chip, and no houses near where I found him. She told us we had 30 days to decide if we wanted to keep him or surrender him to her. I was sure we weren't keeping him. We already have 3 dogs and 3 cats. Then I come home from work, and my wife, who I remind you does not like big dogs, has him on her lap. Apparently, he looked sad. So his name is Franklin now, and we have 4 dogs. He's already smarter than our Yorkie Shih Tzu mix siblings that I refer to as the moron twins. So that's what I found on the road. The moron twins. This made me laugh. I'm glad you kept Franklin. Stopped to check out a box on the side of the road in a rural subdivision. Found a puppy. The box was lined with newspaper and the flaps were taped up to keep the puppy comfortable and safe. Why go to all that trouble if you're going to set the baby out to die? Anyway, took her home and she lived with us through 3 moves, helped my husband defeat cancer twice. Anytime I see a box on the side of the road I immediately think there are kittens or puppies in it. I grew up on a farm and people dropped off animals into our creek or onto our property many times over the years. My best cat friend is still with my grandma after 10+ years. I saw a big trash bag. Thought there might be a body in it. There was. A small deer someone hit with their car. Smelled awful. You had me in the first half, not gonna lie. I didn't stop to look, but same road. 2 different nights I saw a dude banging some chick on his hood. He got high beams on his ass. Second one was a car that ran into the side of a bridge and fire was literally shooting out of the front of the car. Gas line, I think. I did stop and ask if anyone was in the car. They said no and I called 911. Both around 3 AM on the same random back road. I was driving along a road one day in the early hours of the morning, and as I living in Australia and was driving down a country road, I was scanning the sides of the road for kangaroos that like to jump out in front of you. I saw a dark shape and slowed right down, expecting a roo to jump across the road, but it didn't move. I thought it might have been a native animal that had died, so I stopped the car and went to check it, because often they may have a baby in the pouch. It turned out to be a dog that was in labor. I put her in the back of my car and went home and helped her whelp the puppies. I scanned her microchip. I have my own scanner, and called the local vets who found the owner. Not my story, by my mother's. She was driving home late on a brisk November night, like midnight or so, on back roads in Michigan. She sees an injured orange cat out of the corner of her eye while driving. She stops at a connivance store up the road, buys some gloves, overpriced kitty litter, food, and even gets a box from the cashier to put the cat in. She drives back to get the cat, and it was a smashed pumpkin. My hometown does not have street lights. I'm driving down a dark, winding road. On one curve I notice a car pulled over facing the other direction, which didn't seem right. I pulled over and got out of my car. That's when I started to hear a guy yelling for help. I run back and can see that the car was not pulled over but had crashed head on into a tree. I immediately call 911. Shortly thereafter, a guy in a truck pulls over and shines his lights on the car so other cars can see and not hit the guy. The guy was bleeding all over the place and trying to stand. It was impossible for him to do it. We kept trying to keep him calm but he was obviously drunk. He begged us to call his parents and we put a cell on speakerphone for him. It was depressing to say the least. His mom kept yelling at him saying he deserved it for being a drunk and spending her money on W. This guy was about in his 40s too. I stuck around until the first responders show up. They immediately diagnosed him with a compound fracture in his leg and he had to be airlifted to a hospital about an hour away. I saw the guy and his parents in a restaurant a few years later and they started a fight with a nearby table. Just awful. I'll never regret stopping to help the guy, but I was hopeful he would be more grateful to still be alive and not be hostile, rude to others. I was a commercial and residential landscaper lawnmower for 10 seasons, and oh man. Found lots of money. I still check the hotspots around retail buildings. Is mostly checking where rainwater drains to around chain link. Always check cigarette packs. Could find money, drugs, cards, scratch off tickets. There's lots of stuff in these. I found a 10-inch pink silicone suction cup dong. I stuck it above the cab of a co-worker's truck, so it flopped around above his head while he drove, lol. I got wrote up for that. But boss man couldn't keep a straight face while reprimanding me, so worth it. Found cell phones, fishing poles, bikes, found a stolen motorcycle, found a busted brick of sea, all dirty and soaked. Cops confirmed. So much underwear. People bang each other anywhere. Lots of panties, socks, and condoms. Sorry on mobile. My grandpa found a cigarette box one time with around $200 in it. When I heard about this, I would always look inside discarded cigarette boxes on the floor. Eventually me and my buddy were out and about and I grabbed a cigarette box not expecting to find anything, but I thought it's worth a try and it was full of cigarettes. I managed to get a few bucks from that encounter. I stopped my car to answer nature's call. It was a somewhat busy road, so I climbed down a steep embankment for some privacy. Midstream, I look to my right and there sits a frickin' black bear. My blood runs cold and I stare at it trying to figure if it has seen me, but it isn't moving at all. Turns out the poor thing was dead. Must have been car struck. I clambered up the embankment, heart still racing and fortunately in dry pants. I had to check and see if clambered is a real word. Now I feel like I need to use it a lot from now on. I was about 12 when I was in Romania with my dad and my grandpa. There was a young bear at the side of the road. Unlike families with little kids there, we didn't get out of the car. I don't know what people thought when they went as close as about 2 meters to a freaking bear that could rip them apart. Also, as I said, it was a young one, so the mother was probably also around there. I live in Romania. Can confirm some people are not as careful about bears as they should be. A dead moose and a struggling baby moose. Apparently a moose had been hit a bit down the road. The mama struggled away as far as she could and died in the ditch. I called an animal rescue and they took the baby, helped it until it was big enough to be on its own and released it. I also saw 2 bears fighting on the road. I just stopped and watched it until they moved on. I saw a fish tank box randomly at the side of a country road on the way to my work. I stopped and checked in case it was abandoned kittens or puppies. It was an empty fish tank box. That's really good of you to check. I was going to drop my car off. I was daydreaming and missed my exit. Just around the curve of this 6-lane highway there was big black garbage bag in the slow lane. As I slow down to move over, I notice it was actually a dog. Further up about a 500 meter, 1/2 mile, a car was stopped with hazards on. I pulled over just behind the dog and coaxed him onto the shoulder. He was pretty battered up, broken back leg by my guess. I tossed my jacket on him and tried to keep him calm. The car further up started reversing on the shoulder. When they got up to me, the woman got out in tears. Her Bernese Mountain Dog jumped out the window on the 401/75 mph highway. We used my coat to lift him into her trunk and they rushed him to a vet. Don't drive with your window down and a dog unattended. He was lucky to escape with a broken leg. Your story reminds me of a horribly sad sight I saw one day. Young puppy dead on the shoulder of the road. Looked like it was wearing a harness and the remains of a leash. Little ways up the road was a car pulled over with its hazards on. There were the remains of a leash hanging out the open back window. I do not know what happened, nor do I think I want to know. I used to work at a fast food place. Got off work after midnight one night, and on my drive home spotted something on the side of the road, and a car up ahead on the other side of the road. I stopped when I realized it was a helmet, and then realized there was a motorcycle and a dead guy by the trees. The other car had stopped as well. The motorcycle took a curve way too fast, hit a pine tree so hard there was no bark on a large area of the tree, and his helmet was 100 feet down the road. He was dead immediately. My girlfriend and I stopped in a mountain road because we thought we saw a kitten that's tail was cut off and was bleeding. My girlfriend and I approached him with water and he was very friendly. I went to pick him up. As we got closer we heard a terrible noise come from the woods from a large animal. I looked at the kitten with the missing tail. Turns out he wasn't in bleeding. It was a bobcat kitten and it just ate something. Mom was waiting for us in the woods. I thought it was a blanket or rug on the dotted line in the road. Was a baby deer. We moved it out of the road with a blanket. I saw a sleeping bag that was tied up on both ends. It was the only thing that made me stop because it looked like a dead person was stuffed in it. Turned out to be stuffed with old clothes. Still called it in to report it. When I went back to it later that day it was gone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.